going to be covering Scatterplots, and you have two foldables for today. So first you have Scatterplots on association. So this should be glued on the bottom left side of page 7. And then your Scatterplots foldable will be glued on the bottom right of page 7. So we're going to look at the puzzle piece first, which is Scatterplots and association. So we have three types of association when it comes to Scatterplots. We have positive association, negative association, and no association. So looking at this one here, I see that these points follow a positive trend line. So here, this is a positive association. And in a positive association, as one variable increases, the other variable increases as well. So as our x's go up, so do our y's. Now I see that these points follow a negative association. So since these follow a negative association, I see that these follow a negative trend line. So here is one variable increases, the other variable decreases. So as our x's go up, our y's go down. Now, if you look at these points on our scatter plot, they are all scattered over our graph, which means they have no association. So the change in one variable has no effect on the second variable here. So as our x is increased, there is no change in our y's. So that is for the puzzle piece. Now let's go ahead and actually look at the Scatterplots foldable, which should be glued at the bottom of page 7. Okay, so looking at the cover here, it says Scatterplots are graphs that use points to display a relationship between two variables. So Scatterplots can help determine if one variable has an effect on the other, or if there are overall trends, correlations, or relationships between the variables. So again, we are plotting both our x and y values, and we're trying to determine if there is a relationship between our x variable and our y variable. So now we're going to go ahead and open up this foldable to number 1. So for number 1, it says, which scatter plot below appears to not represent a linear relationship between x and y? So when we see this word linear relationship, remember this means that it follows a straight line. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to form a straight line, just that it follows it. So when we look at F, I see that these points are all in a row and they follow a straight line, which means it is linear, which means F cannot be my answer. If I look at G, following my scatter plot, I see that these points follow a positive trend line. So this is also a linear relationship. If we look at H, we see that our points are all scattered over our graph, which means that this is no association. This has no relationship, no linear relationship, no association. So most likely H is our answer, but let's continue to check the rest. If we look at J, I see that these points follow a negative trend line, which means that this does follow a straight line, which means that this does have a linear relationship, and J is not my answer. Again, H is our answer because it has no linear relationship. Looking at number 2, it says an online social media company keeps track of how much time members spend using its website each day. The scatter plot compares the average amount of time some of their customers spend on the website per day compared to their age. Which statement appears to be correct based on this data? So here, as I see the age of our customers increase, so as they go from 0 to 80, their daily time spent, if you see here somebody in their 20s, the time they spend online on a website is almost 3 hours. But as we get to about age 60, it's less than half an hour. So again here, as we see the age increase, the daily usage on this website decreases. So looking at our answer choices, it says as a customer's age increases, their daily usage remains the same. So here, this would mean it would look like a graph like F, to where no matter how much it increases, it's staying the same. A is not my answer. If I look at B, as a customer's age increases, their daily usage tends to increase. So this would be a positive trend. And we see that this graph has a negative trend, where I should have one value going up, one value going down. So here, since both of these values are increasing, B is incorrect. Looking at C, as a customer's age increases, their daily usage tends to decrease. So since this is a negative linear trend, again, as one variable increases, the other decreases. So here C is my answer, because D says there is no relationship between a customer's age and their daily usage. So since it says there is no relationship, that's what makes it incorrect, because we do see that there is a relationship between a customer's age and the time they spend on this website. So again, number 2 is C. Now let's go ahead and look at number 3. So for number 3, it says 5 months of weather data for a town comparing the average high temperature that month with the amount of monthly precipitation are shown on the scatter plot. Based on the information, what is the closest estimate for the monthly precipitation if the average monthly high temperature is 85 degrees Fahrenheit? So with scatter plots, we have to create our trend lines. So our trend line should go through the majority of our points in the middle. So drawing my trend line, I'm going to try and draw a line as straight as possible. It should look like this. You do not want your trend line to be too high or too low. So starting here, I want to go when my average monthly high temperature is 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And I see that 85 is about right here. And I want to know what is the closest estimate for the monthly precipitation. So to figure this out, I'm going to go to 85. I'm going to go up, hit my trend line, and go to my y-axis. When I go to the y-axis, I see that it should be at about 6 inches. So here, D is my answer. Looking at number 4, a farmer keeps track of the number of eggs laid by her chickens compared to the chicken's age. The result is shown below. Based on this data, how many eggs might a 7-year-old chicken be expected to produce? So again, here we have to create our trend line. Our trend line should go through the majority of our points. So when I created this trend line, I see that it stays through the middle of my points. It's not too high and it's not too low. So again, I want to know how many eggs this chicken might produce if it is 7 years old. So I'm going to go to the age of the chicken when it is 7. I'm going to go up to hit my trend line, and I'm going to go to my Y variable. I see that it should be at about 75 eggs laid annually. So here, my answer is B, 75. Looking at number 5, it says a ski instructor asked her students to keep track of the number of times they fell down during an hour. She compared that to the instruction hours they had received. So if we look at our graph, we have instruction received as our X variable and number of times fallen as our Y. Based on this data, what appears to be the best estimate of the number of times a student skier might fall down in an hour after receiving 8 hours of instruction? So I am looking for the number of times that this skier might fall if they have received 8 hours of instruction. So the first thing you should do again is to draw your trend line. Again, your trend line should go through the middle of your points. I see that my trend line is not too high and it's not too low. It goes right through the middle of them. So I'm going to go to 8 hours and I'm going to go up to hit my trend line. When I hit my trend line, I'm going to go to the left and look at my y-axis. And I see here that I should have about, I can expect someone with 8 hours of instruction to fall about 4 times. So A is my answer. Okay, now let's take a look at number 6. So it says a doctor's office records the height and weight of patients during annual physicals. Some data for males is plotted below. Which of these appears to be the best prediction for a patient's weight if they are 76 inches tall? So the first thing we want to do again is to create our trend line. So I'm going to draw my trend line as best as possible through the middle of my points. So that looks pretty straight to me. On the X variable, I have the patient's height, and for my Y variable, I have the patient's weight. So I see as the patient's height increases, the patient's weight also increases. So this would be a positive association. So I'm looking for the patient's weight if they are 76 inches tall. So here I see that this is about 75. So this would be about 76, slightly to the right of this. So I'm going to go up and hit my trend line. And I see that when I hit my trend line, it's slightly above 200. So since it's slightly above 200, when I look at my answer choice, the best prediction would be about H, 210 pounds. So that is making predictions based off of your trend line on Scatterplots.